The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Diego Castro, bringing you the biggest headlines from around the world. An investigation by the Associated Press found that Russian occupation authorities deliberately undercounted the dead in the aftermath of the dam explosion in Ukraine's Kherson region. The probe found that Russian authorities took control of the issuance of death certificates. Russian workers immediately removed bodies not claimed by family and prevented local health workers and volunteers from dealing with the dead. Russia reports that 59 people drowned in the territory it controls. But in the Russian-occupied town of Oleski alone, which Ukrainian military estimates had a population of 16,000, the number of deaths is at least in the hundreds. AP also spoke to health workers, informants, and one volunteer, whose accounts recalled mass graves being dug and unidentified bodies being taken away. Israeli tanks have advanced deep into central Gaza Strip after days of relentless bombardment. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society said at least 3 people were killed in an Israeli strike on Maghazi refugee camp in central Gaza on Thursday. Further south, Israeli forces struck the area around a hospital in the heart of Khan Yunis, the Gaza Strip's main southern city. An Israeli airstrike later killed 20 Palestinians and wounded 50 in Rafah, a major town near Gaza's southern border with Egypt. According to local medics and residents, the building that was hit was housing displaced civilians. Palestinian health authorities said 210 people were confirmed killed in Israeli strikes in the past 24 hours, raising the total of Palestinians killed in the war so far to over 21,000. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Gutterz calls for trust and hope in 2024 in his New Year message. Looking to the future, Gutterz called for 2024 to be a year dedicated to rebuilding trust and restoring hope. Gutterz also underscored the imperative to combat discrimination and hatred, which he said have strained relations between nations and communities. Furthermore, he stressed the need to ensure that emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence serve the greater good of humanity. Gutterz also reaffirmed the UN's unwavering commitment to rallying the world for peace, sustainable development, and human rights. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now World. I'm Diego Castro. Mexican and U.S. officials agreed to work together more closely to tackle record migration at their shared border. The countries said they would seek to strengthen a sponsorship initiative for Venezuelan, Cuban, Nicaraguan, and Haitian migrants and look to tackle the root causes of migration. The latest of a series of caravans of migrants and asylum seekers is slowly walking across southern Mexico toward the U.S. border. Mexican President Andres Manuel López Obrador estimates that the caravan counts some 1,500 people. However, some activists and local media have put the figure at 7,000.
Cada vez hay más movimiento en la frontera, en los puentes, y por eso tenemos que estar atentos para que no se cierren los pasos. Se llegó a ese acuerdo, ya se están abriendo los pasos para el ferrocarril y los puentes fronterizos, normalizar la situación. Se avanzó en eso, también hablamos sobre la atención a las causas.
After weeks of false starts and delays, SpaceX is set to launch again the military secretive X-37B robot spaceplane. This would be its seventh mission, but the first atop the Falcon Heavy rocket, which is capable of delivering it to a higher orbit. The rocket is due for blastoff from NASA's Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral on Florida's Atlantic coast later today. The Pentagon earlier cited the Air Force saying that it would involve tests of new orbital regimes and space domain awareness technologies. The mission comes 2 weeks after China's own reusable robot spaceplane, the Shenlong, was launched on its third mission to orbit since 2020. Let's now take a quick look at other world stories we're watching. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reportedly ordered its military, the munitions industry, and the nuclear weapons sector to accelerate war preparations. This is said to counter what he called unprecedented confrontational moves by the United States. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro says the deployment of a British warship to Guyana's waters breaches an agreement between Venezuelan and Guyanese authorities. Both countries earlier agreed to avoid increasing tensions in their dispute over the oil-rich Essequibo territory. And an almost naked celebrity party at a nightclub in Moscow held during wartime with Ukraine has provoked an unusually swift and powerful backlash from authorities. Footage and photographs of the event have reached President Vladimir Putin, who is reportedly unamused. And those are the top world headlines of the hour. Join us again at 9:45 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. I'm Diego Castro. We are One News. All sides, all the time.